What's up, guys? Welcome back to Streetcar Shenanigans YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to cover a couple different things, but primarily, we have decided to join Bob on his Sick Week adventure in Florida with this Procharged SN95. This is an F1x on a 363 small block Ford, and true to our heart, it is a T56 Magnum banger car. And in his recent Sick Week adventure, summer of last year, he finished top 5, being the only one in the top 5 with a blower combination. So today we're going to talk a lot about this in Sick Week, but I also took a clip to show you guys some of the other projects going around the shop. So let's jump into that, and then we will come back and discuss what we're doing with Bob's car for Sick Week, which is only 3 short weeks away that we got to put this thing on a trailer and head down south. Thank you guys again for tuning in. If you are a new subscriber and the first time checking us out, please hit the subscribe button down below. And if you like today's video and you want to stay in touch with some of the other projects going on in the background, then make sure to hit that bell notification so you guys can know when we upload. We are trying to upload once a week. We got some new hats, we got some hoodies, and we are working on the website to get up as well so you guys can start hopefully supporting us by buying some merch. Anyway, let's get into today's video and talk about Sick Week 2024. If you are tuning in here to see Bob's car and the side exhaust, which I hinted at yesterday on Instagram, if you don't follow us on Instagram, make sure you do so. We're gonna get to that shortly. It is kind of a unique thing. I'll give you a little sampling. There's the exhaust. Weird location. How did we do it? More on that later in the video. So I wanna show you guys a couple things that we've been working on now that it's the new year, so Happy New Year. First thing is, we reorganized this side of the shop. We spent some time cleaning up the other side, which is now a mess again because we moved a lot of stuff over here to there. But this side was a fab shop previous. Now recently, we got the Ranger body out of the corner, which you guys might have seen in a few videos in the back. We'll touch on that in this video also. And kind of set this up more to actually accomplish a lot in here. We're gonna try to keep it to a 2-car max, because this is a really cool project you guys haven't seen. So we want this area to be kind of large enough to really do everything that we need to. So this car's here now. This is Brian's hatch. Going to be another drag and drive build. And we're going to be limited to the cage, but it's going to be a really badass small block Ford build. But today's purpose of the video is going to be on Bob's, obviously, which is also sitting here on the fab side, because we have done a lot of fabrication work to it. And we're getting it ready for Sick Week in Orlando in like 3 weeks. So we got to get the heck out of here, and hopefully we're going to make it. So before we dive too deep into Bob's car, let's show you where the Ranger frame is going, because I'm really excited to share this build with you. Dan has been extremely patient in working on everybody else's car. That we finally kind of pushed him that he needs to start working on his. Trans Am looking sexy. Shane's car, we got pretty much all the Mega Squirt issues figured out on it. Seems to be good. It had a front seal go out, and we noticed the balancer was wobbling, so we just put an Innovators West balancer on it, and blower hub and crank seal. So this is ready to go on the dyno. So hopefully next video coming up, you guys will see that. But here is the Ranger chassis that you guys have been seeing in the corner of the fab shop for years. So literally bought it forever ago, and now it's finally starting to take shape. This is gonna be a really cool project. We don't have any real drift cars, so this is gonna be kind of the beginning stages of our first drift project. You know, we're probably gonna modify steering and stuff like that, but as of right now, it is gonna go together like you see here. We have an EcoBoost, a 2015 EcoBoost 2.3 turbo motor, MT82 transmission, a bunch of other stuff out of a 2015 Mustang to put onto this thing, and we're really excited to see what it comes to. But this is going to be Dan's daily / drift car. It's going to be really fun. The body's a little rough, so hopefully we don't do too much modifications to get this whole combination to fit together, because we're probably going to look for another cab one day. But for right now, it'll work. We got all the frames all boxed in. We got a bunch of cross members we're going to put in it once we've realized where the engine, trans, and exhaust is going to lay out. We'll start adding some tubing to it to really stiffen up the frame. Got some really cool components for the fuel system. The brakes are kind of trick. It's like a conversion to make a hub work and to put, I think he's going to have his ATS brakes to put on it. So that'll be unique. So that's where the Ranger is, and that's why the Fab Shop looks as good as it does right now. So let's talk about Bob's car. All right, now if you've been following us on Instagram lately, you might have been seeing some updates coming from Bob's car. We've been doing a lot of cool fabrication work on it. We started off by really evaluating how we did in Six Summer last year of 2023. This car finished top 5 in the stick shift category. I think we got lucky. I think one person ahead of us did not finish. So we would have been a 5-6 contender as is, without finishing the week with a 960 average. Our goal for 2024 in Florida is that we maintain a top 5 finish, but significantly drop our average, and hopefully that'll put us higher up in the top 5. I'm extremely grateful to be able to say that Bob has invited me to attend Sick Week with him this year in Florida in this car, and I will be riding shotgun and playing with the laptop and pretending like I know what I'm doing on an adjustable clutch, and really seeing what we can get this car to average down in Sick Week this winter. Now, mind you, if you're not a big drag and drive fan, which I think everybody is nowadays, but if you're not, that event is a 5-day event throughout Central Florida, where you have to drive the car to the track, race it, and then drive that same car to the next track the next day. It's over the course of 5 days, 4 different racetracks. And it's going to be really, really stressful and really exciting. But most importantly for Bob's car is that we have no testing done to it. So I'm going to discuss the changes that we're making for Sick Week 2024 that we're really excited about. But at the same time, they're putting a lot of pressure on us to make sure that the car is going to perform as well as it's working in my head right now. As you can see right now, you can see this huge front mount intercooler. So this is the main change of fabrication in the front end. It used to have a Procharged 1300 intercooler, which I have over there. We could show you, but ultimately this has 4 times the amount of volume of heat exchanger core. So this thing is huge. We have a diverter on the inside, so it should use a lot of the upper core that kind of gets dead air. It is 7 inches thick, 22 inches wide, and 12 inches tall. And it actually fits in the same amount of space that the old intercooler did because it was mounted on an angle. So we basically just took all that volume that the old ones took up and created a 2-end tank system. After doing some research, we also decided to upgrade the piping size to 4-inch to also increase power. We really don't want to see any pressure drop from the blower to the intake manifold. So increasing the size of the piping, increasing the size of the core is all going to help with that while maintaining better temperature drops. The Procharged 1300 intercooler on this car doesn't make 1300 horsepower, and it was seeing 230 to 240 degrees down track. So we really wanted to address that. I think we're leaving a lot of mile an hour on the table by getting heat soaked air like that, but at the same time wanted to decrease the pressure drop from one side of the core to the other, and I think that we're going to accomplish that with this intercooler that we made all in-house. So this is an F1x Procharged 363 small block Ford with twisted wedge R heads. If that all sounds familiar to you, that's because it's pretty similar to the Tramp. Now this is a really aggressive solid roller camshaft. It's got a little bit more race parts in it. Like, it's got a front motor plate. It has solid mounts, which I guess the Tramp has solid mounts also. It has a bigger blower with the F1X, and it has similar compression ratio. And overall, the car is kind of built with a little bit more race in mind. It does have an 850 cage, so we will be limited to 850. Hopefully, we have that problem where we have to slow it down in order to complete Sick Week. It's got awesome RC Comp wheels. We are in the process of putting some TBM brakes on it, so we're going to try to take some weight out of it. And we're doing a lot of other things to it as well that you guys will see in this video. We'll touch on in a second. But the goal for this is to be a sub 8 average for the week. And we're really looking forward to accomplishing that, and it's going to be really fun to join Bob on that. So this SN95, we have previous videos of it on the channel if you haven't seen it, so you can definitely check it out. I'll put a link in the description down below where we got this thing ready for the last Sick Week in Florida. Unfortunately, didn't make it. So between Sick Week and Sick Summer last year, we redid all the valve train to what we would think was going to live, and then it was able to succeed in Sick Summer. We are working on the exhaust, which is the main thing that I wanted to show you guys. It actually has aluminum. I'll put pictures up, and I have some video on the bottom side of the car. But we ended up redoing the collectors at the header, put a vibrant resonator on it, and then built aluminum 3.5 exhaust from that location all the way up until the tunnel of the car with a set of aluminum mufflers. That took 40 pounds out of the exhaust system on this car, all while upgrading. It was a 3-inch exhaust, now it's 3.5-inch exhaust. It weighs less, and it doesn't have a real piece of shit Spin-Tech muffler on it anymore that was no way designed for this kind of horsepower to flow through. And now it's got an X-pipe as well, so it should make it sound better. I didn't like the true duals. It really sounded like Harley-like. So now that it's got an X-pipe, I think that's going to sound a lot better. I'll try to show you guys what it looks like underneath, because I do have the back jacked up pretty good. Turned out pretty awesome. Then the interesting part, which is the point of today's video, is where it goes up into the floor. So this is really unique. This is a unique characteristic of Bob's car. This exit right here. Everybody who sees the car points it out, they love it, but it is really kind of an oddity to put exhaust through a quarter panel of a Mustang. The exhaust actually goes into the inside of the car in order to come out right there. All right, so admittedly, I'm not crazy about the exhaust system in this car, primarily because it goes into the car. It's very unique in that fashion, but at the same time, it's kind of sketchy. So I ended up doing the aluminum mid-pipe to see how much weight we could shave out of the exhaust system, but I didn't want to do aluminum into the car in fear that if something is to crack inside the car, it's going to cause major problems. So I ended up going from aluminum to stainless, and then stainless out the side, which the stainless out the side looks badass, so it's definitely worth it. But I want to show you guys how this was done. I don't want to take full credit for it because it was done, and then I'm just trying to do it a little bit better than it was previous. And we're friends with the shop that's built the car originally. Now, I think our fabrication level is on a different level than they are, so no disrespect to them whatsoever, but I just wanted to take what they did, that same idea, and then just improve upon it. But I want to show you guys how kind of crazy this is. All right, so we are in the car. This is inside the vehicle. This is where the back seat would typically go. Now, he's got some other stuff in here. He's got like a radiator fan, which was Bob's attempt at trying to get heat out of the car, which didn't make any difference. And he says it actually doesn't even get that hot in here. But you can see there's Dynamat. They have a rear seat delete that is all heat wrapped and insulated to try to keep heat out. But this is how this works. There is a huge hole right there in the floor that I made more round because I didn't like how it looked. It looked like it was butchered up. And then this piece comes up in, and then it is all cut out the side. Now it's probably easier to see on this side because I don't have a pipe in there yet. So there's the exit. There's the hole right there where it's going to come up and in. And then that side's got to bend up and go out that hole right there. Kind of crazy. So kind of nuts. Not crazy about it, like I said. I think eventually I want to build like boxes in there basically to just like close the exhaust out from the inner compartment. That's not going to happen right now. This is how it was before. That's how it's going to be for now. He had heat wrap on the exhaust. So we'll probably end up doing that. Maybe get it, if I have time, we'll get it ceramic coated and then heat wrap it. But it's kind of crazy that they didn't really have like excessive cabin heat. He's actually got a temp gauge in there with a temp probe in between the two exhausts in the side to see what kind of temperature is happening underneath the back seat. And he says it doesn't get as crazy as you would think. But still a very unique thing. And I mean, it's cool. It looks cool. A lot of people like it. I don't know. I'm just not crazy about the concept of having it into the car. So anyway, it's done now. It looks great. This side's done. I have to get one more V-band because unfortunately I had to make it 2 pieces in order for it to be able to be removed and installed easily. And I also want to build a support to hold the weight of that so it's not bouncing on the aluminum on the bottom the whole entire time. So I'm going to put a little support in there, bolt it to the floor. That's going to hold it in place. And then I will make the other side. And she'll be pretty much ready to go. So now it's got 3.5-inch exhaust with an X-pipe all the way out the back. It's got the big intercooler. We looked over just about everything, reset valve lash, checked cam timing. We had some issues with the rear suspension on 6 Summer. I think I have a clip actually of it, and it broke like freaking everything on day 1. So they replaced all that, and in doing so, I was able to inspect it now more thoroughly. And the torque box, well, the torque boxes in this thing are just rough to begin with, but the lower torque boxes were kind of up. So we went in, put some plates on them, strengthened them up as much as we can, threw some extra welding on the uppers, threw some welding on the lowers, upgraded the bolt size to 9/16, got everything to fit, and I feel real good about the rear suspension right now. We have to center it up and align it, but I think it's as strong as it's going to be until it gets some torque boxes. That'll be a future modification. So obviously you guys saw there's a lot of fabrication changes going on, trying to increase the horsepower and the temperature capabilities of the build. But I want to show you guys the last two secret weapons that are really going to knock ET off of this project without increasing any horsepower, although we have some of that going on as well. Bob is a little resilient in doing this method, so I hope that between us testing in advance a few days early and me going with him to not be scared of going down there and adjusting it and everything like that, we get this figured out relatively quickly, because I think that the direction that this is going to take the car is really to the next level. But it is kind of intimidating. So this is what we decided to do as a major change for the 2024 season in Bob's car. A 6-lever Defiant Black Magic clutch. This is an adjustable unit, so what this allows you to do is that there's 6 levers on here, and you can see that these levers come out to this outside here. So that is going to allow you to add weight, which here's a box that you can put a bunch of hardware, nuts, bolts, washers. Some guys make tungsten weights for more weight. And that'll allow us to hang it on the outside, and that's going to affect our centrifugal clamp load of the clutch as it spins with RPM. Then you have these 6 adjustment holes in the front that's going to affect the base pressure. You can basically see there's like valve springs in there, real thick, heavy-duty springs. So you can set the base pressure, which is like the initial bite, and then you can effectively change how that clutch is going to slip and apply load to the driveline by hanging different weights off of here. So with RPM, we'll also clamp the clutch up. So this is used in a lot of top contenders in stick shift racing. So it's going to be interesting to get one, learn on it. Bob volunteered to be the guinea pig. So hopefully we learn a lot about it before we decide to start building, what the heck's going on? Before we decide to start building the notch, which is going to use something very similar. With a adjustable clutch comes the territory of not being able to shift a synchronized transmission anymore. So the other big modification that we're doing along with this clutch is going to be a G-force gear set in here. If you guys follow us on Instagram, you've probably seen the gray Fox body that's Mark's 4-valve with a VMP on it. That car is currently, humble brag, the fastest mod motor blower stick car. And a lot of that was done by utilizing a faceplated clutch. It drastically cut down on the ET, and that's going to vary a lot based on the driver. So I was able to look at Mark's data when he was driving it with a synchronized transmission, see how long it takes him to make the gear change, and I was able to estimate how much time is he going to shave off by going to a faceplated transmission and shifting it off a limiter or using an ignition cut, and it was almost verbatim what we were expecting. He literally shaved a half a second off in one track outing, and ultimately we ended up going about a second and some change faster than what it's been with a synchronized transmission, with obviously some other updates. Bob, I'm kind of hoping for the same thing. His faceplated transmission should net him at least 0.4 gain. That is simply just from not having to touch the clutch during the pass. So we'll be able to consistently get the 60 foot down. I'm hoping that we'll gain about a consistent 10th if we can get the thing to 60 foot in the 30s reliably. And then also shifting it using a rev cut or ignition cut, he should also be able to shave another 4 or 5 tenths that way. That should really put this car into top contender territory, especially being a blower car in a turbo car world. It's going to be really different because it's the only blower car that's competing at the top level in the stick shift class on Sick Week. I'm actually kind of curious how many blower cars, like in the top 40 cars that this thing ranked in overall, how many of those are blower cars? Because I don't think that there's a whole lot of supercharged cars running in the top of the field anymore. I think turbos have really kind of taken over, especially with the ability of drag and drive, turning the boost down or off to drive them around and then wicking them up to ungodly horsepower to get them down the track. So yes, lots of changes. You guys are going to see this come together. I'm going to throw some old dyno clips up and sound clips so you guys can see what it was like before, because the next video you guys see of this, you'll hear it running. We'll have it on the dyno. We plan on baselining it before we put the adjustable clutch and transmission setup in it, to make sure that the car is healthy. It's still making the power that's equal to or greater than what it did before. Make sure that everything's healthy, and then we'll tear the transmission clutch apart, put all this badass shit in there, and get it ready to go to Florida. So make sure you guys are subscribing to the channel to follow along with this. We are going to try to document the sick week experience, which is going to be a lot of work in itself on top of testing and getting it ready to go. But we're really excited to kind of use that to boost the channel back up into regular uploads. So, all right, guys, thanks for following along. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next video. All right, so I closed out that video, but here's a PS note. My brother was just asking, he's like, well, so how do you actually do this? You have to pull the trans out? So I was like, oh, well, that'd probably be good information for you guys to also know. So here it is. So we got this fancy bell housing from Brauel, which admittedly is kind of expensive. And it's got an inspection window here. So this is going to allow access to get and hang the weights on the centrifugal portion of the clutch. Now I'm really hoping, we didn't touch on this much, but I'm hoping that the power curve of a centrifugal blower doesn't allow us to blow through the clutch easily as far as the base pressure setting. So we don't have to do a whole lot of base pressure adjusting. I really don't want to have to adjust anything, but once we get a baseline. But if we're not able to drive it on the street with the track settings, then we're going to have to get up in there and change it. So this has adjustments like we were talking about for base pressure, and you hang the weights off for centrifugal lockup, but this is the access port. Now, fortunately, we have some friends in the stick shift community that are running clutches like this, and they've already been forwarding me extensive modifications furthermore to make to the bell housing to make any modifications easier, because primarily we want to get the clutch dialed in for like distance, 60 foot, and then it's going to be locked up after that. That's all going to be centrifugal based. But if we have to go from there to the street and it slips leaving a stoplight a lot, then we're going to want to add base pressure for the drives. So we want to be able to do that relatively quickly without laying under the car for an hour to make a base pressure change. So we're going to be looking into that. Once we get this mocked up in the car, well, there might be some stuff that we're removing off of the bell housing to make this a little bit easier, which is going to be painful considering what it costs to get the bell housing in the first place. But I don't think you can fit this clutch in a QuickTime bell housing. However, we're going to test that theory too, because if we can, then maybe there's a chance that we do not modify this Brauel bell housing. We save this for another project, and we just modify the QuickTime to make it work. All that will come in a video next week, so make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time.